Australia.
Are we live now?
We're just waiting on a couple more people.
That makes perfect sense. I think we'll start. The mate comes up and joins us. Go along. So, ladies and gentlemen, George Farmer. How to introduce George Farmer? First appeared on my radar maybe about, what, 15 years ago? Yeah. Started this 15 years ago in the pages of Practical Fish Keeping, which I now edit. At which point you were like mentioned George Farmer at the time, and Aquascape was your first appeared on my radar. Since then, you've gone on to become professional your own brand. George Farmer now becomes a household name in the fish keeping world. You've entered IOPLC George Farmer. International Aquatics contest in Japan. And can be found your main focus. So you can find George Farmer on YouTube, and you'll find archives of Aquascape over the years, and all these keeping tips. So what we're going to do here.
That's mine.
George.
Guilty as charged.
Okay.
I am. That's the fun thing. I am actually an amateur.
So, George is today putting on a display of an Aquascape for us, the step-by-step process of building an Aquascape from absolute scratch. And what we're going to do, we're going to bring the Q&A session within this Aquascaping demonstration as well. So there will be periods where George will be working and won't be talking about what he's doing as he's going along. And at that point, I will go around, and if we have any questions for George, then do please let me know, and we'll ask him as we are running along. And I'll throw in a few questions of my own as we go. So George, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathan. And thank you everyone for coming, and thank you to Maidenhead Aquatics Cardiff for inviting me. These workshops are really special because they're an opportunity to hopefully inspire people for real. So I do a lot of work online, I've written a book, magazine work, etc. But it's only when you're working in 3 dimensions and face-to-face with people and they can see the actual reality of what you're creating that people could really, truly get inspired, and you have this dialogue, you can ask questions, I can answer you in real time, and hopefully lots of learning and fun can occur. I'm deeply passionate about aquascaping. For me, it's my therapy, as Nathan alluded to. Various challenges in my life, and I'm actually really grateful for them all because they've made me who I am right now, and that is a guy that has a job doing what he absolutely loves, hopefully helping people with their own hobbies and maybe making them think about their own aquariums in a different way. And I guess the aim of this workshop is not only to create a beautiful aquascape using the plants, the hardscape, the aquarium, which we'll talk about in more detail soon, but also to allow you to consider when you're at home maintaining your aquarium or setting your aquarium up or rescaping your aquarium, growing aquarium plants, whatever you do, even if you're not a plant and tank keeper. By the end of this workshop, I would like to think you will perceive your hobby in a different way, and it can hopefully allow you to connect with nature in a fundamentally more intrinsic style, because what we're doing here is not only creating something beautiful to look at, but we're creating actually a miniature universe. You know, this is like an underwater world where you're the creator, and we have these beautiful aquarium plants in conjunction with a beautiful natural material, so they all come together to create something that's absolutely magical. You know, you see the plants grow, you see the bubbles of oxygen form on the leaves, you're witnessing pure creation right there and then. And if you really take a step back and when you look at your aquarium and not just think what's wrong with it, A lot of people just self-criticise about their aquarium hobby. How can I make it better? But just learn to accept it for what it is and enjoy it. And hopefully by the end of this workshop, you can maybe enjoy your aquariums a little bit more and enjoy the imperfection of your aquariums, because there's no such thing as a perfect aquarium, apart from this one. So, any questions throughout? We can go through Nathan or you can ask me directly. I'm quite flexible. We'll talk about the hardware, we'll go through the aquascaping process, what we're doing and why we're doing it, and by the end of it we'll have hopefully a really lovely layout. It's not going to be filled up with water, we're not going to fit any equipment to it today, but please do come back to the store because Steve here is going to maintain it, aren't you? And you can keep an eye on it, you can watch it evolve. Hopefully it'll be posted on social media and we can all see it evolve together, and hopefully we can all have some good fun today. I am aware it's very warm in here, it's a tin roof, it is warm outside. There is some water at the back there, so I encourage you to drink some water if you're getting a bit hot. If you want to nip out for some fresh air, don't be shy, just go out, don't need to excuse yourselves. It's going to be about 2 hours or so, I expect, and yeah, I'm excited. Let's go. Just going to make sure this is working okay. Perfect. Okay, so well, first of all, I want to thank my sponsors, Oase, who have supplied the aquarium. Did you buy the aquarium or was it given to you?
I'm not actually sure.
Okay. It's an Oase aquarium, very good quality product, quite expensive, but worth the investment if you want a really high quality premium product that's going to showcase your aquascape to the best of its potential. Low end glass, mitered corners here, very cool cabinet with removable side slots here so you can have your hoses going up. There's actually different lengths of these as well that are supplied with it, so you can have different size slots for different size things. Same thing on the sides. I think it comes in black as well, and maybe the white soon as well. The filtration here, I want to say Biomaster, my favourite external filter, game changer, has a removable pre-filter which makes maintenance really easy, and an integrated heater so you don't have an ugly heater distracting you in the aquarium. A variety of media options. We've got some fertilisers there, we've got the soil here of course. Magnets on the door, can you see those? You can't see those, but there's some magnets on the door there for your tools, which is really handy. Spring-loaded hinges there. You can put a shelf, different levels here. This is really cool, you can slide this out to maintain the filter as well. It's really handy. Just a really good bit of kit. Comes in a 60 centimetre, a 90 and a 100. This is 100, it's 50 centimetres tall and 50 centimetres front to back, which gives us 250 litres. So it's a nice size, it's a nice canvas, as we call it. And that's a really good point. This is an art. What we're doing here is we're creating a work of art, and we're using nature, and we're going to use some special kind of techniques and compositional guidelines to hopefully create something that's really easy on the eye. It's not going to look grown in already, of course. The plants, we're mostly using a very small baby plants, we'll talk about those later, so it's not going to have that huge impact straight away, but it still should look good. Hardscape is provided by ALF, very, very good company, amazing hardscapes, so they supply lots of retailers throughout the UK. Talk about the hardscape in more detail later, but thanks to ALF for supporting this workshop as well with the hardscape. Lighting is AI, this is the AI primes. They're very fancy actually, control the spectrum, they're very powerful I believe. This is on the set programme at the moment. Talk to the Maidenhead guys about these in more detail. I'm actually not that experienced with these, but I do know they're very good quality and produce excellent results with regards to the colour and the plant growth, which is what we want. It's a rimless tank, of course, no lid, so you need to be careful what fish you're stocking. No jumping fish, of course. Good luck keeping a milo shrimp in these. Sometimes they like to climb out and work their way up the stairs and stuff. They're crazy little things. But the advantages of rimless, aesthetically it's far superior. You can have hardscape or plants growing out the top. You can actually see into the aquarium. And what we're trying to do with these low weight glass rimless tanks is actually minimise the distraction of any ugly equipment. So we're trying to create basically a floating column of water. And all you're seeing, hopefully, is the aquascape. And your eyes are being drawn to the ugly equipment. We've got a black background here, which is my second favourite preference, or maybe third. It's ideal here because we've got these black units here, so that's a good shout, putting the black on here. I actually like to use no background at all and then put the aquarium near a pale wall, and then the light spill from the lights actually kind of illuminate the back wall slightly, which looks lovely. And now we have actually LED panel backgrounds that you can buy. You can there's even RGB ones now, so you can have any colour on the back you like. So, for instance, you can have a nice sort of sky blue LED panel on the back, and this creates this beautiful illuminated sky effect, which can look really effective. So that's the equipment in a nutshell. Any questions on the equipment so far?
The solid panels of the tank, are they also low iron?
Yes.
Yeah.
All 5 panes are low iron. Yeah, all low iron. And minimum silicon work as well. So it's a good bit of kit. It's not cheap. I'm not sure what the retail is. Any ideas, Steve?
I'd rather not say if I'm not sure, yeah.
Yeah. The tank and cabinet, are you looking at? It's a 4-figure number. Okay. But you know, quality. So let's start aquascaping. I'm going to create a classic nature aquarium aquascape. Anyone that follows me on my YouTube will know the style of aquascapes that I like. It's based on Amano's Takushi Amano. If no one, hopefully everyone's heard of it. If you haven't, sadly passed away in 2015. In fact, Nathan, you informed me. Do you remember that?
I did.
Yeah, it's like 1 in the morning. You told me. So this guy, Takushi Amano, absolute godfather of modern aquascaping, invented the nature aquarium philosophy, which is all about using lessons from nature and converting them into the aquarium space, outside nature, you know, using natural materials, live aquarium plants, and creating something that looks really naturally beautiful and just intrinsically connects you with nature. You know, you've got fluorescent gravel, pink gravel, bubbling, you know, divers. It's great and the kids love it, and that's important, but it's not so natural. And what I like to do is use aquariums as an opportunity to almost meditate, you know, and when I'm consuming my aquarium, I'm not literally sitting in front of it. I actually have a meditation cushion now, and I'll sit cross-legged on my meditation cushion, and I'll often just zone out, and rather than judging the aquarium, thinking, oh, how can I make this look better, you know, what's wrong with it, you actually use this as an opportunity to accept what you've created and enjoy it. And it's actually a really kind of mindful process. You know, we live in an age now where we're completely oversaturated with information. You know, a lot of it's kind of high threat information, especially on mainstream media and the news. You know, and what better way to disconnect from that melee of information and reconnect with nature, with something that you've created yourself. I think it's a really beautiful thing that not many people perhaps appreciate as much as they can. We're using a Oase Scaperline soil here, relatively new product, very similar to the other soils on the market. It does reduce the aquarium water pH and hardness. It doesn't need pre-rinsing at all. In fact, you shouldn't pre-rinse it because it's just going to wash away a load of the good stuff. And it's just a really easy to use product, as you can see. You don't need to use anything underneath it, although you can do if you want. Some people use power sand or other kind of base layer products to add extra nutrients or bulking agents. You know, some people like to slope their soils really high, and they might like to use crushed lava stone or something like this. You can use like net bags of rubble, you know, as long as it's inert, so to slope your substrate up really tall if you want to at the back. But today we're just going to be quite simple and just use the Scaperline soil on its own, which is absolutely fine.
George, does that soil have nutrients in it?
It does, it does. It doesn't have as many as some of the other brands, like ADA, which is potentially a good thing for beginners. Some of the other branded soils have a very high nitrogen content, which means when you do fill up the water at the beginning, you'll get potentially a huge ammonia spike, which is very toxic for the livestock and could potentially trigger algae as well. So this doesn't have so much ammonia, if any. Always a good idea to test for ammonia and nitrites before you add any fish or invertebrates, because that will cause them distress. Normally wait sort of a couple of weeks after initial setup before stocking any livestock, and then test your water appropriately. If you've got a mature filter and you're comfortable doing large frequent water changes, you could potentially add livestock right from day one. Okay. It lasts indefinitely, potentially, in terms of its actual construction. I think it's with double bait, so it's quite a hard grain. The nutrient content won't last forever, but you can prolong the nutrient content in the soil if, in conjunction, you use liquid fertiliser. So the really cool thing about berrying plants is that they can take in nutrients, plant food, through the soil, through their roots, or through their leaves by using liquid fertiliser. If you use lots of liquid fertiliser, the plant doesn't need to take in so much nutrients through its roots, and therefore the nutrient content will last longer in the soil. Does that make sense? Yeah. It can get a little bit kind of muddy and sludgy after a while, and this is very noticeable if you have ground-dwelling fish, corridorus, loaches, that sort of thing. I don't normally recommend loaches or any digging fish when you're using soil. But you will get superior plant growth with the soil versus a regular sand or gravel. Okay. Any questions on the soil? No? Good. I think they retail for £35–40 a bag. It's an investment, it's not as cheap as sand or gravel, but the benefits, in my mind, are definitely worth it with regard to superior plant growth. Okay, the soil is in. If I had the time, I would, get my paintbrush and just, really kind of titivate, as we call it, make it nice and flat and perfect. I'm a bit of a perfectionist with these things. We can always tidy up at the end. It is going to be moved later, so not much point in making it look, too fancy right now, because it might shift around a bit. Okay. So we've got a little bit of a slope in the back there. Got an inch or so at the front. That's okay. We don't need much more than that. If you have it up here, you're effectively eating into your real estate or your canvas. So we don't want it too steep at the front. And then we've got probably 3 inches or so at the back. That's 7.5 centimetres. That's the substrate. Nice and easy. Good.
Your 1200 with the swords, did you do a deeper substrate over that?
Probably the same as this, pretty much, yeah. I used a cosmetic kind of gravel foreground as well, which I'm actually going to change to. But yeah, this soil is perfect for swords, grips, it's high nutrient content, those roots will love it. It's very porous as well, so it's really good for bacteria colonisation. It doesn't compact like some sands can, so you won't get excess anaerobic bacteria production, which can lead to hydrogen sulfide and that foul, egg-smelling stuff. So it's just a really great product, and probably one of the game-changing products for aquascaping in terms of helping out with the aquarium plant health. Okay.
Question at the front there, George. Question right there.
Hello.
Do you ever add gravel on top, or do you just keep it with the soil?
Yeah. What we can do is have soil at the back, and then an area of cosmetic sand or gravel at the front, and then like a barrier. And then a common technique is to use rocks and stones to set as a barrier between them. Okay. And you create this beautiful kind of aesthetic at the front, and then you've got all of the good stuff to grow the plant at the back. Some people don't like to grow carpeting plants at the front, you see. We're going to be using carpeting plants today, that's why we're not using a cosmetic sand at the front. Okay, let's move on to the hardscape process. That's the wood and the rocks, kindly provided by ALF today. So if you want any questions about the beautiful materials over here, for instance, this is one of my favourites at the moment. I'm not using it today, but I will be using it at some point, I'm sure. But this is called tree stump, you can see why. But look at that texture, look at all those details, absolutely beautiful. It will want to float more than likely, so do bear that in mind. You might want to pre-soak it. It probably will leach a lot of tannins as well, which isn't an issue. You can dilute that with water changes, use a chemical media such as activated carbon or Purigen. Or if you want to keep a black water set up, You just let the tannins do their thing and the fish love it. Perfect for sort of catfish that want to hide away, or cichlids, or whatever fish like to kind of use it as a cave. Yeah, I was going to use this today, but I'm sticking to my comfort. I will use it at some point now. Beautiful. There's some other types here. This is quite a classic red moor root, but it's got a nice base on there, so it's going to sink straight away, so that's quite cool. And then you can see lots of other types of wood. I have to say, 20 years ago when I started the hobby, the hardscape selection in the UK was absolutely shocking. I used to get a lot of my rocks from the local quarry, for instance, and you went to the local shop and all you had was the old school panny woods, wood, just like round pieces with no detail or interesting textures or anything. So we really are spoiled for choice, relative to 20 years ago, showing my age. Stone, you look at all those gouges, all those white veins, absolutely beautiful textures. Thank you, Ian.
George, are there many usable rocks in the UK or not, or are we quite limited for rock sources?
In terms of what you find in nature?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, is the easy answer, but just test them first. You could do the lemon juice test or some strong acid to see if it fizzes. If it does, it'll have some calcium in there, so just bear that in mind. Any calcium is going to potentially increase the pH and hardness, especially the softer the water, the more impact it's going to have. If you've got hard water, not so much impact. Okay, hardscaping. Hardscape is like, think of the aquarium as a human body. The hardscape is a skeleton, okay? And the stronger your hardscape, the stronger the skeleton. And then we attach the muscles, which is the plants, and then we have the blood, which is the water. How's that for an analogy? Yeah. So we start off with a high impact hardscape. We're trying to create something beautiful almost from the get-go, and the hardscape provides that instant impact in terms of composition, focal points, and it's the framework which you then add the plants onto to create the whole picture. So it's really fundamental that we get the foundational basics of the hardscape right, and there's a few techniques that we can do to use that. Number one is choose the appropriate hardscape to start with. So think about the size of it, think about the dimensions of it in terms of, is it spindly, is it thick, is it boring, is it interesting, and then just have a good old play around. This is like, I'm like a child in a sandpit right now, with my toys, and I'm just having good fun, basically. And it is like that, and I do get that childish joy when I'm playing with it. So do take your time, have fun with it, and I'm going to try to create something fairly straightforward and quick for you right now. But what I'll do, I'll talk you through my kind of thinking process. So I look at the piece of wood, and I'm looking at all angles, and I'm thinking, how is that best going to look when I'm looking at the tank straight on? This is a good point. Where is your tank in your living space, and where are you going to be viewing it from for most of the time? That should really pay attention to that, because that's the final picture, that's what you're going to be seeing. So let's say I'm where Grant is right now. He's going to be viewing it from kind of this angle. So you wouldn't want all of your, hardscape kind of up here, because there's no kind of fly, there's no foreground. So just consider, where you're going to be viewing the tank from. Most people tend to view it from straight on. I'm going to assume that we're going to be doing that today. But if you're viewing it from an end on here, triangular layouts are really good, so having like a low foreground down here and then tall stuff up here. Or if you're viewing it from over there, vice versa, tall stuff up here, low stuff down there. Does that make sense? Very straightforward, but quite an important lesson because you want to enjoy what you're looking at. Okay?
George, have any aquascapers explored doing lengthways aquascapes? Are there any names you can think of that have really kind of
not worked in my head? I think some people have, but not even in a contest I've seen it. I don't recall.
I know I've seen some. I just can't think of anyone who's like been pioneering with it and run with it.
I really enjoy looking at some tanks and I just get that. And what I do, is I've only just started doing this. It's a bit weird, but I get my hands like this, and I put the glass, and I do this, and then everything around you is zoned out, and you're literally immersed in your aquarium. So it looks a bit weird. I don't care. So you just, I just enjoy it, and just see you are one with the fish and the plants, and it's just lovely.
I've seen where you use aquariums like a room divider,
Okay.
and they have it set from one end coming out.
Okay.
It's designed to be seen from three sides,
Yeah,
not
okay.
just the front.
I'm just sitting there a tank focusing just on that
Just
far
on the
end,
end.
just as like a shallow stroke, just so
Yeah.
backed up on the two what would be on the viewing planes.
I have an Oase Highline 300 room divider, six of the tank, and it's an island design. So if you imagine this rotated this way, it's coming out into the room this way, and then there's all the wooden rocks that are kind of down the central line coming out like this. This is exactly what you see. Plenty of videos on my YouTube channel about my Highline 300. Okay, so what we're doing now is I've decided that this is probably the best way to position this. And now what I'm going to use is a compositional guideline. Composition means where's that focal point going to fit in that box. Basically, that's what composition is. When you get your smartphone out, sometimes you'll see a grid. When you take a photo, and it's divided into 3 equal sections, vertically and horizontally. This is the rule of thirds, okay? And what we can do is position our main focal points in accordance with the rule of thirds. So this is our main focal point kind of here. Main focal is sort of the biggest, the most obvious part of the hardscape. So this is the most tallest bit here, the kind of most weight, if you like, of the scape, the most impactful piece of the scape. Third is around about here, so that's perfect. And now we go on to the second piece. Am I talking too quickly?
No, you're doing great.
Good.
It's a good place.
So I tend to talk much slower on my videos, more calm, ASMR. But when I'm talking, I speak quite loudly, so I've got the microphone.
Aim the view for you.
There you go. And we're going to repeat that kind of concept with this piece here. So what's the most attractive side that we want to look at? Does it complement this piece? Can we use the rule of thirds again?
There's a lot of shops on like the speakers table now, where you can go
Yeah.
and play before taking it back to your tent.
Absolutely, yeah. We call them dojos. Yeah, and yeah, most aquascaping, well, all aquascaping specialist stores will have one, and even some regular, fish stores have them now as well, which is great. Try before you buy. It makes sense. And also, if you're a trained member of staff, you can take your customer, go over to the dojo, show them how it's done, and then some stores will actually come up with a complete hardscape collection for the customer.
So 3 pieces of bundle instead of 2.
I've been known to take a cardboard box the right size of the tank with me.
Yeah.
In the car, and just take it to the shop, plonk it down, and then put the wood in it until it's like
Yeah.
Big box for your last time.
Didn't know.
So if you're doing this at home, it's worth taking a lot longer time than I'm doing today. Just have fun. You can create the layout, you can have a look at it, take a photo of it. This is a good tip as well. And then, how does it look in the flesh? How does it look in the photo? You've got a photo now, so you've got a record of it, and then you can have a play around and experiment. Does that look any better? No, I'll go back to the original. You've got the photo.
But you never get exactly like you did the first time.
No, never. No. So take your time, create the best layout you can, invest in the hardscape. A lot of people might, spend a good amount of money on an aquarium and the filter lighting and everything, and then they might try to save money on the hardscape or the plants. Now that's like building a beautiful house and not painting it, So you really need to pay attention to the aesthetic details, at the end, and don't try to cut corners. Otherwise, you're not creating the creating the potential that you could do, in terms of something beautiful. Okay, I think that's a little bit. Can you see that's really vertical there? I'm not very happy with that. So we can either twist that around a little bit. It says, let's try that way. So this bit here is quite dominant, it's very central. So I'm not 100% yet. Bearing in mind, obviously, when we put the plants in there, that's going to have an impact on the overall balance as well. Now this wood we'll want to try to float, but hopefully by positioning the stones, which we will do in a minute, we can kind of bury the wood into the soil and then position the stones kind of on top. This is one common sort of cheating technique. Otherwise we can literally glue the wood to the stones, or even to the face of the glass if you wanted to stop the wood from floating. Obviously you can pre-soak the wood beforehand. It's the best option, but we haven't got time to do that today. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. It's really warm, isn't it? Is everyone as warm as me? Hello.
I was going to say it's really useful whenever I'm decorating a tank. I don't have the lights on. So I don't need the lights on. And actually, when you mention that middle bit of the wood sticking out and looking really dominant, because of the way the lights are shining on it, you really notice it.
Yeah.
And you can adjust it before everything's in.
Yeah. Yeah, good idea to have the lights on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's the nearest thing to what you're going to be seeing at the end. You want to try to visualise how it's going to look at the end. Yeah. I think that's really good. Anyone disagree? You. Cool. Right, happy with that. Right, we're going to use a beautiful rock here, very, very popular in the hobby. It's called Sirius stone or mini landscape rock or Ryu stone. There's lots of different names for it. It's basically the same product. It probably comes from the same quarry. And it's actually quite limestone heavy. So it will potentially boost the water pH and hardness a touch. But with regular water changes, and actually the soil as well is going to help counteract that. So this is really beautiful. There's beautiful kind of veins, gouges in there, over the thousands of years, the tectonic plates, or anyone geologist here? So I can BS you and pretend I know what I'm talking about. This is a metamorphic rock.
It's sedimentary.
Sedimentary, is it? Sedimentary, my dear Watson. Okay, so what I do now, similar process, thinking about composition, go for the biggest, sort of most dominant piece, and look at it at all angles. What's the most attractive size? That's boring and flat, monotone, interesting. So we have that facing us, and now we're thinking how best to position it. So we can go in all axes. What I like to do is use the strata. The strata are the natural lines here, and we can use them kind of to guide us and how we want it to go. So we have a natural line here. You see that the woods coming up here like a natural diagonal. We've got a natural diagonal there. So I'm just going to pop. So rule of thirds again, this is the most dominant stone, remember, focal point. Put it up there. Push that in. I just realised this isn't going to be filled up until I've gone, so it doesn't matter if it floats from here. just saying as it is. Next size piece. For that, beautiful. Both sides are beautiful. This one's got sort of marbly effect on there, like a crystal quartz, I guess. It's a bit too fancy, I want to see that. Okay, these lovely gouges here, and then again using the strata, and what we can do now is use the strata here as a guideline, and then what we can do is either, if we want sort of more harmony, which is where all the strata flows in the same direction, or we can have tension, where the strata deliberately opposes each other. So harmony would be like this, where the strata is in line, tension like this, where the strata is at right angles with each other. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put that here, like so. Lean it on the wood so hopefully that it stops the wood from floating. And then same process with the other stones. All provided by ALF, by the way, which are based in Bedford, which is half an hour drive from me, and I've just had an offer to collect all the hardscape I want. Haven't I, Ian?
You have indeed, George.
Cheers, mate. So this bit of wood here is actually buried in the soil. So I'm actually going to wedge this stone here to hopefully stop that from floating, and also to look good next to that other stone here. And we are going to be attaching plants around here as well. So any imperfections, whatever that means, can be hidden a little bit with the planting. Any questions on hardscape?
Do you ever mix the stones? Or
No, not generally. We tend to try to keep a coherent theme, and we're trying to mimic nature. And often in nature, you don't find different types of stones in the same location. So, yeah, unless you're going a bit kind of creative and crazy, I would normally recommend. There is even kind of subtypes of this. Some types a bit more brown, and that maybe adds enough kind of difference to make it more interesting, you know. Okay, so here like this. Do we have any more of this in the store? Do you have any big piece? Real big piece? Yeah, do you want to see similar texture to what we've got already?
in my display is a big one.
Okay, Steve might be getting us some bigger pieces. I tend to use, in this size aquarium, I would use normally slightly bigger pieces if possible. As beautiful as these are, they're going to quickly become covered with the plants after a couple of months or so. So we'll see what Steve's got. If he hasn't got anything suitable, that's okay. Let's go next bit, I think.
I think that's a mistake. I'm very new to it, a couple of years, probably new. I think that's a big mistake. A lot of people make, they go too small.
Too small, absolutely.
You really want to fill that scape up, then because once it starts growing in,
Yeah.
you lose it. You lose a lot of it anyway. But I think that's very simply trend really.
It's well, I mean, it's not cheap. Sometimes, hardscape can be quite expensive, but it's an investment and it will last you forever. And if you've got space in your home or your garden, you can just hoard it. I've got an alleyway and it's just absolutely chock-a-block full of beautiful hardscape. And you can just add to the collection over the years if you're a long-term aquascaper.
Yeah, there's about 3 pieces of bundle. Mix it out to that.
Yes. Okay. Oh, here we are. Okay. Nice. That's what this one is, too flat. And then this is obviously the heaviest piece, and it's actually going to really be helpful to keep this wood from floating. And what you can do is actually offer the soil up to the stone. So it looks like the stone's, naturally coming out of the earth. It's like the earth's eroded away to expose the stone. So we're trying to really mimic these kind of lessons from nature. And it's all about these kind of little details over the whole process really make a big difference to the final results.
A picture came up on my Facebook feed and I thought, oh, I wonder who did that scape. And it was a tourist board for Scotland, and it was the Highlands, and it was just a field with half a dozen rocks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a scape, it wasn't, it was a field.
Yeah. So this is nice actually. Just gonna lay that down there. So, I know I'm doing this quite quickly, but like I say, if you're doing it at home, take your time, have fun, put some music on, listen to a podcast, have a glass of wine, whatever your, go-to relaxing thing is. That'd be rock music. Love it. Hard rock. Very good.
Dragonstone be soft.
Very good. That's a good point. Dragonstone is softer. It's basically really, really hard clay.
Don't wash it too much.
No. Okay, we're nearly there. I think that the you need that. Let's have some room for plants. Good. Aquascape's in. It's not going to float. It's good. If you wanted to glue it down, this is a good technique. I'm not going to use it. There's no point in using the product if I don't need to. Use super glue. And then common technique is cigarette filters you can use. You can break these apart, make them into like a cotton kind of wool thing, or you can just use makeup removal pads. You can break them apart, or even tissue paper. Anything which is kind of that kind of material, like a loose fabric that you can break apart. Filter floss is another one. And what happens is the glue actually kind of melts the material and forms a really strong bond. So what you can do is just wedge in your cotton in between the wood and the rocks, add in your super glue, let it dry, and then it's a solid kind of adhesive. And then what you can do is crush up some of the soil and then sprinkle it over your super glue, and then you don't see the ugly white portion.
Is that just bog standard super glue? Or?
Yeah. Cyanoacrylate, which is really common. It's actually used in surgery, human surgery. So it's definitely, people wondering about toxicity, it's absolutely safe. This is a specific one for corals, but it's the same stuff.
It gives like a minor amount of fumes.
Yeah, it does. It's great. Get in there.
Oh yeah. After a while, you don't care what it's
That's a joke, by the way, YouTube. Don't inhale fumes. Okay. Aquascape's done. Looks great. Happy with that. Next job is planting. Some people will like to wet the soil now, so you can either fill it up kind of to the top, just to cover the soil. You can spray the soil, or you can do what I do and just plant dry. The advantage for me planting dry is that the plant actually tends to stay in the soil better, and then when you do fill up, the plant hopefully won't have so much chance of floating away.
Have you ever left any like that? I think you might have you, with no plants. I think when you discussed it, you put on that one.
Yeah, Aquascape only.
Yeah.
Yeah, I originally had plants in there, and then they decided to camouflage themselves and go dark. And then when I took the plants out and then went sort of white sand bottom, you just saw the colour. It was like counterintuitive. You think the more kind of shelter and shadows and stuff there are for the fish, the more colourful they get. But with viscous, for some reason, it's the other way around.
Yeah, they probably the only one because the wood falling off. I think you wouldn't with a hard skin.
Yeah.
And the fish is a full up.
Yeah, the fish is the main discus. The fish is the attraction, isn't it? Really. I do miss my discus, but there was just such hard work. Anyone get discus here? Yeah, what should you do? Yeah, hard work, aren't they?
Yeah.
You find them hard work? Worthwhile? It's like the more work you put in, the more reward you get.
Yeah.
It's only when you anyway, not going down the discus route again, George. Okay, planting. What I like to do in the foreground, I'm going to talk about the plants in some detail. This is my absolute, as well as aquascaping, I absolutely love plants. All plants. Plants are responsible for life on this planet. Without plants, there'd be no oxygen. And we wouldn't be able to breathe and we'd all die. So plants are great. And the really beautiful thing about aquarium plants is that we can physically see them producing oxygen. You know, if you have enough light, enough CO2, enough nutrients, you see the bubbles forming on the leaves. You know, it's just a beautiful process. You're witnessing the creation of the life-giving element of oxygen. You know, and when you do what I do, you meditate in front of the tank and you see the oxygen bubbles, and you're just grateful for life. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, people hate algae.
Yeah, not all people hate it.
Yeah, but it produces 60% of the oxygen on the planet.
Yeah, does it? Yeah. People hate ugly algae in aquariums. Yeah. And I think excess algae is a symptom of unbalanced system in nature and in aquariums as well. So, you know, it's good algae and there's perceived bad algae, I guess. Yeah, algae is a big topic. I've been talking a lot about algae on my channel lately. If you don't subscribe to me yet, or if you're not watching my recent videos, I've done quite a few deep dives on algae and how I've been suffering with it personally and what I'm doing to combat it. So do feel free to watch my videos. Drop me a comment and say I saw you at the workshop, George. That'd be cool. Okay, let's start with the foreground. Let's talk about the actual plant species. These are mostly today, we're going to be using Tropica 1-2 Grow. Now these are produced in Denmark, in Tropica's own laboratories, state of the art. And brilliant. These are my favourite type of plants. You can buy regular potted Tropica plants as well. You can buy them on decor, you can buy them in portions. But the tissue culture, the 1-2 Grow, are my favourite. And the reason for that is numerous actually. Number one is that they're guaranteed to be free from any pests. You know, no snail eggs on there. They're produced in a sterile environment, so there's no algae, there's no disease, and they're actually grown now. Most of them are grown in a liquid growth media, which is a combination of growth hormones and nutrients. And this is quite a thin liquid, so the plant basically thinks it's underwater. And that's brilliant because then the plant can begin growing straight away in your aquarium. When you buy a regular aquarium plant in a pot, they're grown hydroponically, which means they're grown out of water. So I haven't got the pots to hand, but if you just imagine that's in a pot right now, a little pot. The pot itself just sits in a very shallow pool of water, nutrient-rich circulating water, and it actually grows out of the water. So the plant is actually adapted to grow out of water. And when you put that in the aquarium, you flood the aquarium, the plant actually has to go through a transition. It uses a lot of energy to do that. And during that transitional stage, the system is a little bit unbalanced and it can be a little bit prone to algae. So there's a lot of people get die-off, people get algae issues. That is, there's much less chance of that happening when you use the 1-2 Grow. Nature, about 95% of aquatic plants grow out of water for the majority of their lives, and they get flooded in the wet seasons and they have to adapt to grow underwater. So plants actually most plants prefer to grow out of water. So when we're actually kind of not punishing them, but they're not living their best life underwater usually. But we can mitigate that with things like CO2 injection. So the plant's almost fooled into thinking it's in the air a little bit, yeah. And if you're struggling to grow a plant, two things are probably three things maybe. Number one, you haven't got a healthy plant to start with, so always buy the freshest plants you can from your store. Have a chat with the staff. When do you get your next plant delivery? Go in there the same day, get them fresh as you can. Number two, do you have enough light? These are mostly easy species, so no problem there. Number three, do you have CO2 injection? So the more difficult species of plants will definitely need more CO2, okay? Has anyone got CO2 injection at home in their tanks? Yeah? If you want to kind of guarantee yourself more success with your plants, then consider investing in a CO2 kit. Okay. So that's the main difference between sort of the pots that are grown hydroponically and the 1-2 grows that are produced in a sterile environment. And you know, they're actually baby plants. They're like test tube babies. They're tiny, and they need a bit more care and attention. They need potentially fertilisers earlier on. If you're growing these pots, they tend to have a bigger nutrient store. Just like an adult human has a much bigger nutrient store than a baby. Think about babies, they need frequent feeds, you know, much smaller feeds more frequently, same sort of thing with these. Adults don't need so many. Okay. Another advantage of the 1-2 grow is that's actually more quantity of plant. They're a lot smaller, and it's quite a hard thing to sell to people. They can either buy a big Amazon store like this for like a £5, or you have to spend like, you know, £7 on that, whatever it is. And you're like, well, that's tiny compared to the Amazon sword. But there's actually literally, you know, 10, 20 times more plants in there. Okay? And they will get to the same size eventually. It just takes a little bit of time and care and attention. And actually that's a good thing. It's really great to see that plant grow. You know, you're responsible for that growth. It's in your care. And it's very rewarding, you know, when you see that plant grow. So don't be afraid to try the 1-2 grows. They really are brilliant. And that's why I've tried to use as many as I can today to show you how easy they are to use. And literally, if you come back in 2 weeks or whenever you come back and keep an eye on this, I can guarantee you'd be surprised how much they've grown if Steve does his job properly. Okay, let's start planting. I need a volunteer. Yeah? Yeah. Do you want to use my fancy AGA tweezers or shoppicker tweezers? Oh, okay, do you know how to plant? Good. Do you know how to divide plants? Cool. Let's do Monte Carlo first, and then what we're going to do is just almost like a linear carpet. If you look at where my tweezer is now, from there all the way across there as evenly as you can. Split that into say 8 or 10 portions, and then just plant, you know, intermittently. So if you put one in the middle, one there, and then just divide it, so you get an even coverage. Does that make sense? Yeah. Brilliant. Perfect. What's your name again? Rob. Rob. Round of applause for Rob. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to intermittently plant with another plant. So this is my Chrysanthemum Monte Carlo tweedii, regular name is Monte Carlo. It's a very popular carpeting plant, and it will form a solid, beautiful, bright green carpet, nice, bright, round leaves, sends out runners, and yeah, forms a solid carpet. It can also be used as an attaching plant, so we can actually wedge it in various nooks and crannies. We're not probably going to do that today, but you can attach it.
As an epiphyte plant, it grows.
Yeah. I can't use the word epiphyte because Nathan hates it.
Oh, it's an epiphyte.
Go on, Nathan, give us your lecture on epiphyte.
Epiphyte. Who even came up with epiphyte? Who did it first, George?
I don't know.
Because someone did it by mistake, I'm sure.
Is it someone in the map? Was it
I
me?
don't know. It appeared somewhere, and everyone just adopted it. That's the right word. So, epiphyte. An epiphyte, the true definition of an epiphyte is a plant that grows on another plant. So something like an orchid, or mistletoe, even ivy is technically an epiphyte. These aren't growing on another plant. They're growing on wood, they're growing on rocks. So technically they could be an epipyle, but the correct terms would be, if it's growing on a rock, it would be a lithophyte. And if it's growing on wood, and this word has been used in scientific literature, it should be a xylophyte. So specifically, but epiphyte, yeah, it's a completely, I think the person meant to use epibile initially, just got the two mixed up.
But it's commonly used.
Yeah. And the problem is now, if you look at the definition of epiphyte, it's been embraced and defined as a plant that goes on an hardscape. It's like, no, it's not. It's got a very specific use.
If you say something in alphabet, it comes from truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's the point, and it's wrong. It's like the word decimate.
Yes.
People use that as something
It
that's been destroyed.
just means a tenth of it's gone.
Yes.
1 in 10.
1 in 10 is gone. It's been decimated.
You know, what it
90%
reminds
of it's
me
left.
of when people say, I 1000% believe.
Oh, yes. I'm going to give 110%, so you're going to die then.
Terrible. Yeah. But, you know, if that's my biggest problem in the world, I'm happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Getting the odd words wrong here and there.
I'll just put some blood vessel over that.
Sorry.
How's that? I'm going to listen to it.
That's predominantly a CO2 plant, that is, you know, isn't it?
Monte Carlo, mate.
How would you say?
Yeah, that does definitely benefit, especially if you use it as an epiphyte. Because it's not going nutrients from the soil, so it will tend to need more nutrients than CO2 in the water column. This plant here, it looks similar at the moment to the Monte Carlo, but this is different. This is Marcellea minuta, recently reclassified from Marcellea crenata. This is actually an easy part. No, it's not easy, it's medium category. So this again will benefit from CO2, although you can grow out CO2 for sure. This is a much slower grower, but it's going to complement the Monte Carlo. It's a similar leaf texture, but it's a darker green. And the reason I've used this amongst the Monte Carlo is so we don't have this kind of monoculture look, you know, this kind of linear, boring, flat, you know, same colour, same texture all the way along. Some people like that, you know, like a minimalist kind of thing. I like to keep things, you know, we're trying to keep things like natural. You know, when you look in the meadow, you don't really see, it's not a perfectly manicured lawn, is it? You know, a wild meadow, that's the kind of concept we're going for here. If you look into the history of lawns, it's really interesting. Anyone know about the history of lawns? It's just more of a status symbol back in the day. And if you could afford to have a lawn, then it means you were very rich.
You didn't have to grow your own veg.
So, I'm actually more of a bigger fan of the wild style gardens these days. You know, let nature take over a little bit. I actually really like it when there's like disused factories and buildings and all the plants are just kind of growing over it and stuff. It's just like, yeah, nature, come on.
Do you prefer planting in dry soil?
Yes, yeah, I find that they don't float up so easily, and it keeps the soils cleaner. If you've got wet soil, you end up getting kind of muddy stuff all over it, and then it transfers onto the new plants, and then when you fill up, it's all muddy. So, yeah, the dry soil tends to anchor the plants much easier. Did a great job. So Rob's a handyman, and if you need any jobs doing, Rob, get in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's not Monte Carlo, that's a different one. This is actually a stem plant, it's called Rotala bonsai, and it will grow kind of this tall or so, and under good lighting, these leaves will actually take on a pinkish red kind of outer edge, really, really beautiful. It grows very ornamentally, very kind of vertically, with very distinct kind of hairs of leaves growing up. So it's quite a nice addition.
Have you done, I don't know, have you ever done a Dutch style? I've not done one myself. Have you ever
I've
done
tried, mate, but yes, but no, if you know what I mean. I tried it, I did actually a feature, where's the PFK, it was featured in there. It wasn't any real Dutch aquascape would say it's not Dutch, but I tried. So this is another medium category plant. Tropica do three kind of categories of difficulty with their plants in like a traffic light system. So when you look at the pots, when you look at a brand new pot here, you'll see there's pass that around. There's a green leaf on there. That means easy. And then there's orange. You pass that one around. You can see the orange on there. That's medium. And then we haven't got any advanced plants today. But if I wanted to grow an advanced plant, it's got the red on the label. So the difference is when you're an easy plant, you can grow, you know, kind of most low-tech setups without CO2 injection. You don't need so much light. You don't need so much fertilisers. They don't grow so quickly and need so much maintenance. So if you're just starting out with a planted aquarium, you might not have, you know, specialist lighting or CO2 or soil, etc. Just go for the easy category, go for those green labels, and you should have success. If you have a current aquarium right now and you don't have many plants in it, and you want to have a go at making it more planted, heavily planted, which I recommend, the fish will appreciate it, and you'll appreciate it hopefully, and the water quality will definitely appreciate it. Then just go for the easy categories, and then if you have like a plain sand or plain gravel and you don't want to switch it out for soil, then you can always add root capsules, nutrition capsules to target feed those plants. There's a lot of plants out there, you know, in the easy category, and there are some that are even appropriate for fish normally eat plants as well. You know, I keep Oase cichlids, and I have lots of anebius in there. They do tend to kind of try to nibble it, but it's such a tough, waxy leaf that they tend to kind of, they tend to survive for a good, indefinitely really. If you've got good conditions. So I actually inject a little bit of CO2 when I was thinking, that was handy. That's really hard water where I live, and generally speaking, the harder your water, the more CO2 you need to grow the plants. So it's soft ground here, is it?
Very soft.
So you'll be alright. You don't need much CO2 if any.
With the wet, so like a TDS, so we've got 60.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm going to move. I'm going to move. And that's my wife. It's lovely around here, isn't it? The scenery. Yeah, I want to live at that little castle.
It's 20 miles an hour everywhere, like, don't come here. Not 20. Controversial at the moment.
I noticed a lot more Welsh signs. No. Apart from a raft, which means slow.
And over the chain contact west and the
Yeah. Okay. I get on, mate. Yeah. 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 So this is going to form a solid carpet within probably a month or so. It should look really nice. It'd be a nice mixture of kind of dark green and light green colours, similar leaf shape and size. But I just think that kind of almost random mixture of the two will look really natural. We also have another foreground carpeting plant in a minute, which is going to add even more beautiful texture. About that in a moment.
Do you think that any plants, probably not, that would suffer from CO2 more than not? If you put an aquarium and you run CO2, some plants potentially would suffer from it, or it's not as easy to introduce a natural...
Yeah, no, I mean, all plants will benefit from CO2 injection. Yeah, because CO2 is the second most important thing for a plant. Light, and then CO2.
I
The
think
more either you have, the better it's going to do, basically.
Yeah, I think the minus side from my experience, the limited is you can accelerate as well, unless you get a balance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because of the whack a lot quicker, doesn't it?
That's right. If you do inject CO2, you need to do it. Normally, you need to be very consistent with it and manage it well. Inconsistent and fluctuating CO2 will trigger algae. What happens is the plant will, if you think about the plant in nature, it's going outside and it's getting all the CO2 it can handle from the air. When it goes underwater, that CO2 level in a natural water system is probably up to 10 times as less CO2 in a regular water versus the air. So when you, what am I trying to say?
George, I'm going to interrupt you quickly.
Yes.
I need to race off.
Oh.
I've got a disaster with trains at the minute, so that most of them are being cancelled.
Oh shit.
So I've got like 2 windows to get out of Wales. I'm already stuck in Wales. They're not rural guys, but I couldn't say it.
Okay, man.
So I'll see you soon. You take care.
Basically, all plants will benefit from CO2, but keep it stable. The plant, as I was trying to say, the plant adapts to that certain CO2 level. It actually changes itself physically to take in the CO2. If the CO2 isn't available after it's adapted, then it doesn't know what's going on. And then when the plant struggles, that's when algae takes hold. So if you do use CO2, try to do it as well as you can. I'd always consider investing in a relatively good quality pressurised system if you can. It's more economical in the long run. You can buy refillable bottles. If you've got a nano tank, you can buy the disposables, and that's quite good value because you don't need to change them so much, of course. But it really is a game changer. You really will see significant improvement in your plant growth when you use CO2. It is a bit unnatural, really. We're not injecting CO2 in nature, but what happens in nature, you can get a natural decomposition of bacteria and other things that actually produce CO2 in the substrate, and then plants will benefit from that. So,
Do you reckon that could be replicated in the aquarium?
yeah. I mean the classic kind of Welsh method. So the Welsh Tech method or the low tech, it's complicated labelling again, but basically there's a method where you use almost garden mud or compost or whatever as a base layer, top it off with gravel, and then all those organic materials decompose, produce the CO2, and get your plant growth that way. The potential issue with that is you don't really know, depending on where you get your mud from or your compost, you don't know the nutrient levels. If any kind of leaks, any of those kind of potentially really high nutrients leak into the water, it could probably trigger algae growth. So you just need to be mindful of that. But what we're doing basically, we're trying to create the best conditions possible to promote the healthiest plant growth. And by doing that, we limit algae growth. So algae's number one enemy is a healthy plant, basically. The more healthy plants you have, and the better those plants are growing, the less resources are available to the algae. So just focus really hard on getting the good plant growth, and then algae will kind of look after itself. I say that, I'm struggling with algae at home, and I'm doing the best I can, and it's a challenge. And do you know what? I quite enjoy it. You know, if everything goes perfectly well all the time, it's a bit boring, I think. It's more something to learn. You got CO2 in your tank? Yeah. And how hard's your water? Same?
Yes, Cardiff tap water.
Yeah, quite so. I think it's 120 TDS at the tap.
That's really
That's
good.
what we've mineralised to the
Yeah, that's perfect. And do you know the nutrient content? Does it have any nitrate or phosphate in it?
I don't know because the local don't really tend to test the water and sort of take it.
Yeah. These plants look good from what I've seen anyway.
What do you do to prevent the Monte Carlo flowing out once it's a bit thicker? We should keep it really short, or
Just keep trimming it. Yeah, sorry.
It does, if you let it go too long, it will detach.
Yeah, it does. It's like kind of buoyant, yeah.
I think people are afraid to trim it, but the more you trim it, the more it will come back.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be afraid to trim a plant. In healthy conditions, the plant will grow back. Arguably better than when you had it.
No, it's just trimming it.
We've just done that recently with our house plant, just knock them all back and then come back.
Oh,
Anytime,
yeah.
yeah.
Did you just cut it kind of, did you cut it right back at the root? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite low, sort of a couple of inches like that.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
We just started repotting the later hours.
Yeah.
I'm scared to do that, even though, you know, I'll get my wife to do it for me. If I mess it up, I'll get it. Yeah, I love houseplants. I used to just love aquascape, but the more I get into nature and plants and stuff, the more I realise, you know, houseplants are really cool as well. Get into gardening a bit more.
Get yourself a couple of bonus actually.
That's patience, isn't it? Yeah, I've got a book on plants actually. I need to. Only so much time, isn't there? Hobbies.
Yeah, for like bonsais is.
Fairly low maintenance, I guess.
Yeah, trim in spring,
Yeah.
repot every 2 years.
Okay. Is that outdoor or indoor?
Oh, there's only around, so it's a tree.
Ah, okay. But you get a bit more species suitable for indoor, no? Or,
It has to be a tropical tree, like a bougainvillea or a ficus.
okay.
90% of any tree can be a bonsai,
Yeah.
just needs planting.
Ah, okay.
Colin is a Welsh Mr. Miyagi.
From Liverpool.
Well, that makes sense. A bond is Latin for plant, isn't it? So,
Yeah, people think it's
That's
like a
right.
tree, it's not.
no,
It's a tree in pot.
yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, got a couple of them.
I did the RHS garden show and did a couple of aquascapes there, and we had this bonsai guy there. It must be a real legend. And his trees were just
Absolutely stunning.
so one of them was like 1,000 years old. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's one that was about the Nagasaki bombing.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, plants is great, aren't they? And then, you know, the benefits to this whole system, you know, plants produce oxygen, as we've discussed, but they also remove harmful toxins, not just nitrogen, you know, ammonia and nitrite and nitrates, but heavy metals, At the top, pretty much any toxin the plant will remove. And the fish really appreciates it. I couldn't keep any of my baby Malawi cichlids alive until I planted it with the Nubius. I don't know if it's the food source or the shelter or a mixture of the two, but it was fascinating to see that. Okay, we're going to go for our third and final carpeting plant. This is probably one of the slowest carpeting plants that you can get in the hobby. This is Cryptocorinne parva. It's actually the gel type, so when I'm preparing the other pots, it's in the liquid type, but you can see it looks like slimy, it's like agar jelly, and this is the nutrients that the plant's grown in. So you just need to spend a little bit more time preparing these. So just rinse it off in some tap water. And then what you can do, you can split it up into individual portions. So you can see that there's actually probably about 5 or 6 individual plants there, believe it or not. If you wanted to and you're tight for money, most people are on a budget, the more you split the plant up, the more coverage you can get. We haven't got time to back around today too much, so I'm not going to split it up too much today. But all you need to do, I deliberately keep my nails a little bit longer now for this. You can just pinch in between the growth portions and then actually get individual plants out of it. Okay, and then just slimy. And then this is really slow. So and actually will grow a bit taller, kind of this sort of tall. So I'm going to pop that kind of nearer the stones to act as a transition, because this is going to be relatively flat. And then instead of going from like completely flat then to a sudden stone, we use a transitional plant and a little bit more height in between. That makes sense? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to just make it look as natural as possible.
Do you ever find that when you've got a mixture of like different carpeting plants that grow at different speeds, that any of them tend to compete the others? Or is it all about maintenance to make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, yes and yes. Yeah, so for instance, the Monte Carlo here is by far the fastest grower, so that will need to be trimmed to stop it from overtaking everything else. The Crypt at the moment will be the slowest. And sometimes that's okay, and sometimes you'll think, actually, I'm quite happy to let the Monte Carlo take over, I really like it, and that's fine. And it's all part of the fun, isn't it? Experiment, try different plants, some might grow, some might not. It's all learning, it's all fun, and if something fails, don't be sad, it's learning. You've learned something, you know not to do it next time, try something else. Don't view failure as something that's negative, think of it just as an opportunity to learn something new.
Isn't that fantastic? The Mono series and the way basically lets lots of stigma take over.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, absolutely.
And just a series of methods over a few months of basically just lots of stigma overrunning everything else.
It is a weed, and if you get it right, it's very fast. I found the best results with Flosso is really good CO2 management at the base of the aquarium. So you imagine when you're injecting CO2, most of it tends to stay around the top bit, which is why a lot of people struggle with carpeting plants, because the CO2 might not be reaching the bottom. So focus on your CO2 at the bottom of the tank, and then actually the initial planting is crucial in my experience. If you can be bothered, split apart the actual portions to the point where you've got individual plantlets, and then plant those individually. Yeah, it takes a while. But the plant's almost forced to create a runner under the soil, and then it'll pop a new thing up again under the soil, and it'll keep doing that. If you put a big portion in, it basically thinks it's a stem plant sometimes, because you've got a big kind of concentration of the leaves and the plant in that small area, and it doesn't know where to go, so it goes up. That's where you can get it to go leggy. Okay, well, really appreciate your help. Big round of applause. Okay, I'll do a few more. Did you want to go?
Does anyone else want to help?
Anyone else to go? No, everyone's a bit shy. No? Fine, Steve. I'll tell you what, you can do. Yeah, if you do the rest of the harbour and some there. Yeah, just around the rocks, and then I'm going to go just behind that with the Sparagine. Okay, next plant. Easy category, Sparagine repens. I find this easy. I find it grows without CO2 injection. Other people seem to struggle. I have hard water, so I don't know if that makes a difference. It's a stem plant, but it kind of grows really interestingly, very compact, sends out side shoots really easily, so you can actually really encourage a bushy formation, a compact formation, especially under good lighting. It's very similar to Hygrophila, but it's a lot kind of more compact. So you can split it apart like I'm doing right now. You can do individual stems like this if you can be bothered. And then you'll probably find about 100 of those in one pot. So we talked about the benefits of 1-2 grow versus a regular pot. You get at least 5 to 10 times the quantity of the plant in a 1-2 grow versus a regular pot. By the way, if you want to learn more kind of details about these plant species, if you go on the Tropical Aquarium Plants website, YouTube or website, you'll find a load of plant profiles on there, and you'll get more of a deeper dive onto the individual species. There's a plant profile playlist on YouTube, which I've largely done myself, with a lot of these plants on there, and you can see maintain them, what's necessary to grow them, where to use them in the aquascape, and there's like inspirational aquascapes with them being used as well. Is everyone too hot? Do you want to get a 5-minute break, or do you want to carry on? Feel free if you want to get a breath of fresh air, or I'm happy to carry on. I did 6 months in Afghanistan, so it's happy. So this is planted in the mid-ground, as you can see, and it will form like a beautiful kind of bush. It doesn't grow so fast. It responds really well to trimming, like I say, to encourage compact growth. So it's going to be a little bit symmetrical here. Sparagine. To the left and to the right. You notice we've not used any colours yet. We've got some colourful plants coming up. Tend to be, I'll say that, I've got an Oase Highline 400 at home, which is very colourful. But I tend to stick to more green plants. They remind me more of nature. You don't often see red plants in nature, do we? Well, in autumn, maybe a bit more. So, does anyone not have an aquarium? You don't have an aquarium?
I had them for about 9 years, and then I went to uni and I couldn't have them. And about 6 years later, I'm getting ideas, getting lots of ideas.
Ah, good.
Yeah.
Will you go for a plant attack?
Yeah, I think being 9 and starting your first fish tank, it's not the prettiest in the world.
No, it all starts somewhere, right? It all starts somewhere.
Yeah.
My first aquarium, all the plants I bought were non-aquatic. I went to a garden centre and spent 100 quid on non-aquatic plants. And I'm grateful for that because I failed and I was determined to succeed. And I did the research, and the next thing I knew, I learned about CNC with decent lighting, and then, yeah, here we are. So without that failure to start with, potentially, who knows what would have happened. Do you want to do some more? You want to do these groups here, intermittently in between. Yeah. So this is Cryptocorini. Is it Undulatus red or what? I think it's Undulatus red. That's what you're. No, that's not Styrian. That's the Undulatus red. So the crypt that Steve's holding up right now, this is Undulatus red. It will actually get relatively tall, but if kept in check, it's going to add a beautiful intermittent colour and texture amongst the wood and the rocks here. It's a relatively slow grower, very low maintenance. Crypts are my favourite species of plants because they're beautiful, they're low maintenance, and they really reward you with a kind of surprise. Sometimes you really don't know how they're going to turn out in the longer term. Really depends on your water chemistry.
They grow like weeds. It's like, different marks and stuff.
Yeah, they can, depending on the species, they can send out runners and they can pop up, random places, which is, I think it's great, Vallis as well, that's even quicker.
That's one that doesn't like fertilise too much.
It doesn't like liquid carbon fertiliser, that's for sure. It includes a halberite and just wipe it out.
And they get heavy fertilised soils and root types.
Okay, that's interesting.
Stick it in gravel.
Yeah.
And light it for about 20 minutes a day.
Well, Vallis is interesting because it's actually a full aquatic plant. It won't grow out of water like most other species. Very sensitive to liquid carbon. Yeah, a bit of a brute.
I stick it in the plant so runners can't get anywhere.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we'll do some crypts around here. Is everyone from Wales here? Anyone not from? Everyone?
Not from Wales.
Anyone living in England right now? Oh yeah, of course you do.
Yeah, Hereford. No. The amount of people that think Hereford's in Wales.
Schismatolottis braitoi, what a great name for a plant. This looks very similar to Anubias, and it can actually grow as an attaching plant or in the soil. It tends to do better in the soil.
So Nathan's gone now, you can say everything.
I still say it. Usually. I have started saying attaching plant because there's no real error there. It's important to use the right words, isn't it, I guess?
Yes, very good. Otherwise things get lost.
Decimated.
Yes.
Imagine if we all just talked in emojis.
Like the Egyptians did.
Yeah.
I think my kids do.
So you can see a huge root network on there. I'm going to pop that one. Kind of. So you could use it as an attaching plant and just sort of wedge it there, like this, or you could go actually in the soil and attach, which I will do, and get more food through the roots that way.
Would it attach itself to the rock
Yeah.
as well as planted?
Yeah, it's really interesting. With almost any aquarium plant, you can actually grow any aquarium plant attached to something if you give it enough light and nutrients and circulation. Think about hydroponics, that's what's up there. Yeah. They haven't got their roots in any solid substrate media, so it's almost academic where you put the plant. It's just like a visual aesthetic, really.
And then, you said 20 years ago when you started,
Yeah.
40 years ago when I did, and it was always taken that the roots of the plants were just an anchor.
Yeah.
They took all of their nutrients from the water. The pH of the water was good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it didn't matter what it, and I've always planted in gravel.
Yeah. Yeah, my first substrate was plain gravel, and then I learned about laterite. Do you remember that? It's like an iron-based, like a really hard gravel, basically, with high iron content. And then you'd mix the bottom third, you'd mix the laterite with the bottom third layer of fine gravel, and then you top off with normal gravel. Yeah, and now we've got, things like soil and things, it's much easier now.
If you're attaching any plants to wood or rock and you're using, maybe you want to glue them, is there any, can you damage them? Are you going to be very careful where your glue points are?
Yeah, that's a good point actually. You can see the rhizome. The rhizome is the fleshy portion where the roots come from. So between the roots and there, you just put a dab of super glue in there. That's the move, that's nice. I try not to use super glue to glue plants so much. I mean, it is a popular technique. It's just quite messy, and I tend to go for aquascapes where there's a lot of kind of nooks and crannies and crevices where I can just wedge the plants in, and this is just more natural, I think. And it's what would happen in nature. The plant will float downstream, and then eventually get lodged in a piece of wood or a rock, and then grow against that. So. Right, this is a good opportunity to show something. So you can see the roots are quite long there. Now these shops is the trim, and that's not really going to damage the roots. It's going to promote new root growth. It's important to use sharp scissors though. If you bruise the roots, it can damage them. Still some roots on display there. Yeah. I think this plant's endemic to Borneo. I worked with a few guys on a massive tank in Germany, in Hamburg. Hamburg Zoo. We did a 28,000 litre aquascape, about 10 metres long. There's 4 of us actually inside the tank. And we use this, we use beautiful Philandra, Java ferns. Yeah, it's amazing. I think we used 800 pots If you go on YouTube and search for like Hamburg 7,500 gallon, 7,500 gallon aquarium, George Farm, or something like that, you'll probably see it. Yeah, it's pretty epic. It's still going now. That was 4 or 5 years ago. That's the biggest tank I've ever worked on, and then the smallest is probably my little, the ones I've got running at the moment, my low tap tanks. I've got 2 8-litre, 2 gallon, 27 litre cubes, which are actually no tech, no CO2, no filter, just using the plants as filtration, and obviously some light on there. But that's been a learning curve. I've always tended to use CO2 injection and gone high tech, and yeah, it was a big learning curve for me doing low tech option. And it's a great way to, for beginners with not got much budget, and you just want to have a little play. You can buy a glass vessel from IKEA, or a jar, or just a little whatever. Put a little bit of soil in the bottom, buy a few plants, just 1 or 2 pots of the ones that grow, pop them in there, put water in there, do a few water changes, and you can even collect hardscape from outside, and set up an aquascape for about a tenner, just to get you into it if you want to have a little play around.
How do you choose what plants you're sort of radiating back with? How do you choose what plants you're using to sort of radiate towards the back?
Just sort of random. That's a good question. So I kind of know in my mind already what the end result is, the height. So always choose the plant species in height order, going from front to back. And then just think about the texture differences and how they're going to kind of interact with each other. So because I've been doing this for such a long time, I just sort of have an idea in my brain how it's going to look. It's hard to explain it. We'll keep in touch. If you have any issues or you want to, ask me how you think it should go, I trust your instincts, and I think it'll be fine. Judging by what I've seen you do already, I think it'll do great. Good job I'm not just around the corner, so I don't come and inspect it.
Do you ever use brown Oase soil?
Yeah, I have actually. Yeah, I used it in. Working on a book project with my mate Ty Streetman, and a couple of those scapes had brown soil. I do a shameless plug. I can do that because it's my workshop, isn't it? Yeah. There's a new book coming out soon.
In time for Christmas?
No, probably not. Probably March next year now. It's called Aquatic Habitats book, and it's basically a cross between aquascaping and biotopes. So a biotope is an aquarium that represents a natural habitat, and an aquascape doesn't necessarily do that. This isn't representing natural habitat because all these plants are on different continents. So what we've done is combine the two, and try to create a beautiful, high realistic home for the fish, also something that's beautiful to look at. So I think there's about 60 aquariums in there, step by step, exactly how to do it. All the plants, all the ingredients that we've used, beautiful photography. I'm a photographer as well as everything else. So yeah, it's going to be great. And arguably, what's the word? Arguably the best book in the world. No. Very groundbreaking, I guess. It's a groundbreaking book. No one's done it. Well, they have done something like it. Peter Scott, I think, did one in the late 80s. It's what actually inspired Ty to do it in the first place. But this is just next level in terms of the amount of aquariums and the photography standard and the storytelling. Ty has actually written it, and I did the job title was director of photography. So I did all the photography editing and a lot of the photography itself as well. So that's going to be good. Really good book. Recommend it. It's available now for pre-order on on Amazon.
You done a UK nature one?
Yeah, I won a biotech contest, Aquascape contest in 2009, yeah, you know. Yeah, stickleback biotech. Yeah. So I actually went diving. I was in the military and I was quite into scuba diving. So I went scuba diving in a local reservoir and then got inspired, got some plants and hardscape from it, got some sticklebacks from a local garden centre and then created an aquascape based on what I saw.
Oh, there's a UK one. What brand of shopping trolley did you put in? Alvin.
My favourite trolleys are Tesco trolleys and
And they didn't mind the warmer temperatures, the sticklebacks, did they? Like room temperature?
No, they didn't.
In Australia, it's 21.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're beautiful fish.
Yes, I got some in the tank in the garden.
They're really hard to find now in the I don't really see them for sale anywhere these days.
Maybe put them in now.
Yeah. Anyone into fishing here, angling? Yeah. You watched that Gone Fishing programme with
Yeah.
Water and
Yeah.
it's good, isn't it? Love it. They had this I watched one of them last night, it wasn't live, it was just on demand. And they went to Wales.
Why?
Beautiful. And they met up with this guy who uses fishing as a mental health therapy. And it's actually referred by the GP to this guy. And I just thought it was amazing. I just think it's really great that modern medicine is actually engaging with these natural therapies. It's really reassuring, actually. It's coming together, isn't it?
Any ideas of what fish you put in there?
What fish should we put in here? Not yet. I'll let you know yet. Yeah.
Sticklebacks.
Cardinals is too cliche. Sorry. But they are beautiful. I think it's going to suit soft water here. Yeah. And watch that it doesn't jump. It's quite a straight. It's not a very complex layout, so you don't want lots of different species. I really like. There's a combination that I've always fancied keeping, and I've not done it for many years. Is the kabutites, the green neosporas, are combined, and it's crazy, with the ember tetras. So the green and the orange, I think works really well, and I think it's going to work well with the colours. What's the stem plant? What's the atra grows in? I think. So it's lots of green, lots of red. So I think it might be quite nice. But up to you. If you want to, if there's any particular fish that you want to show off that suits it, that's probably the best idea. So it is important to stop the plants from drying out. Especially the ones who grow, so that adapted to grow under water, remember? That if the plant dries out, it damages the plant tissue. And then when you do fill it up and try to grow the plant, it will struggle. So do keep the plants wet if you can. Okay, we've got one more crypt. I think this is Cryptocorini Wenditii green, probably one of the easiest crypts to grow. Very fast, relatively speaking. And depending on the conditions, will actually produce really beautiful, like a red, mostly green, but then it's got a really cool sort of red stripe in the middle of the leaf. Don't know if anyone's noticed that before. That's what it does in my tanks. Like I say, depending on your conditions, the crypts will kind of have different colours, sizes and textures, so it's like a little bit of a lucky dip sometimes. You can get, the good thing about crypts is they're available in all sizes. You've seen the Parva, which was really small, and you can get Balansai, which could grow 2 metres long potentially, or Eustriana. I've had a Eustriana leaf like that wide and this long. There's, in the hobby, there's easily available sort of any 10, 12 species at a time. In nature, I think there's over at least 300 species of crypts, so amazing. Amazing plant. I did a crypt only scape for the IOPLC 2000 and, I think that was 2009 as well, and that came 169th, I think, which is a pretty high score. Not bragging or anything. I'm not it makes no big deal of you doing the IOPLC, but I'm not a competitive aquascaper. I don't do it for competition reasons. I do it to share the love. And I'm not actually a very skilled technical aquascaper. You know, my mission is to communicate aquascaping in a way that hopefully connects people with nature. That's my passion. And just I like to explain it in hopefully easy to understand ways. You know, sometimes relatively complex concepts, hopefully in an easy, digestible way. So, but competition, you know, it does can drive, you know, development and trends in the hobby. You know, think about cars. You know, concept cars. Go to a car show, you have all these fancy cars, don't you? And you often see that technology and that aesthetic passed down the generations and into the mainstream. So it's a similar concept with aquascaping. You get these really crazy high-end diorama style aquascapes. Diorama means basically shrinking a landscape and then literally shrinking a landscape, you know, like a mountain range or a forest, you know, and they shrink it into the aquarium. That's a diorama. I think they look a little bit contrived and artificial because it doesn't really, in my mind, represent underwater nature. It represents, you know, like literally a landscape. And when you see fish swimming amongst mountains, it's a bit surreal. So, yeah, that's just my opinion.
About mirrors in aquariums, a new trend.
Yeah, it's cool. It's art, isn't it? So it's subjective, and who's to say, you know, what's right and wrong? We've all got our own personal tastes, and I think as long as the animals that we're looking after, you know, are cared for appropriately, then who's to say what's right and wrong? You know, you can't really argue about taste. We can, people do. It's just a futile exercise in my opinion. Okay. Where are we now? Okay, we are nearly at the backgrounds. We've got some hydrocotyle tripartita here. This is an absolute weed, but it's great, and you can use it to attach to plants. You can use it as a carpeting. Sorry, you can use it to attach to hardscape. You can use it as a carpeting plant. You can use it almost as a stem plant. So it's very versatile. What I'm going to do today is just split it up quite aggressively, and then just wedge it in some appropriate places. Do you want to do some as well, Steve? So, just kind of random places in the woods. And what that's going to do, it's going to kind of cascade down like an ivy, and it'll look really beautiful. It's a very fast grower, so it will need trimming, Steve. Do you like trimming?
Can be therapeutic.
Can be therapeutic. That's good. Can be or is? You don't have enough time. You're going to get training anyone else to help you?
Yeah.
Do you have any like really keen customers that would help?
Yeah, got to where?
Yeah, I think it's great to involve customers. Always suggest to, if you might be up for this yourselves, you know, if you got a local aquarium store and they haven't got any decent aquarium displays and you know how to create one, offer your services. You know, as a hobbyist, it's a perfect opportunity to practice. The shop gets the benefit of having a beautiful display. You get the benefit of, you know, fulfilling your creative desire, and then, you know, you can pop in the shop and maintain it, and then they might give you a little bit of credit, you know, to buy fish or whatever. You know, we've all got these skills, you know, and it's really nice to share them around.
Could you use like a cable tie to attach them to more unusual shaped pieces of wood or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cable ties are inert, so
Yeah.
you can do anything you want in the aquarium as long as it's not negatively affecting the water.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, the aesthetics, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Fishing line as well, something like that.
Fishing line,
Yeah.
cotton thread. ADA, which is it's actually Takeshi Amano's company, ADA, Aqua Design Amano, they do a product called moss cotton.
Okay.
And it's actually a really clever product because it's like you know, like a needle and thread, and you get a cotton on a reel.
Yeah.
It's like that, but the cotton actually degrades deliberately over time, so it disappears. So you get your, for instance, you put like a thin layer of moss on your wood. And I always recommend a thin layer because if it's too thick, you'll get die off underneath. So put your thin layer of moss, and then just wrap your cotton thread around as tight as you like, and then just leave it. And then what happens is the cotton threads just decomposes, and then the moss is up there.
Yeah.
Trouble is with ADA, it's about £100 a reel.
Right. Fishing line is.
It's not really, but it's expensive. It's like 10 quid or something. Yes.
Okay.
But it, you know, ADA are like the most premium. They're like the Ferrari
Sure.
or the Rolls Royce of, you know, the luxury brand aquariums. So these are
How cheap is it? Yeah. Escape and Glow. That's £8.
these are like, I think these were 120 quid.
Oh my God.
But they were given to me as a present from a workshop, and I think these were like 70.
The hairdresser used them.
They're really nice.
They are not, and you used them, didn't you? Sexy, aren't they?
Yeah,
They're like the most beautiful, like, pass them around, let's see them.
Yeah.
If you feel that, and you've got the other pair there, this is the Tropica pair, if you just feel the difference between the two, pass them around, and you see the difference. One's 20 quid, one's 20.
Yeah, there's a difference.
And it's all of the trades, you know, I'm a professional, so I invest in the tools.
Yeah.
But if you're a serious hobbyist and you've got the budget, willing to invest, then
Everybody can spend 3, 4, 5 times a week. We're going to use them once every 3 or 4 months.
yeah, there you go. So, but you do kind of get to be paid for,
Everything.
but it's like I get a little bit of joy every time I use it. You can buy 5 pair of tweezers from eBay. Every time I use it, I'd be like, it just feels a bit thing, So, yeah, I'm not a snob, honestly. But you can feel the difference, can't you? Yeah. Got any AJ tools?
No, too cheap.
We're too cheap. Well, they're too cheap. Tell you what, mate, when's your birthday? May the 4th be with you. You heard that one before? Damn it, I thought it was genius. Maybe I'll send you a present. Okay, I'm just going to do a. She's not going to. What are we doing for time? Okay. Doing well. Okay, we're ready for background stems. You ready? Okay, we're just basically mix these up. So we've got the Rotala green and the Rotala yeah. So this is Rotala green. It's a stem plant, and it's obviously been grown in the 1-2 grow cup, so it looks a bit manky and twisted and deformed. But trust me, in a week or so, that is going to grow significantly and start to look like a regular stem plant that you would know. Rotala green is quite unique in that in good light, CO2, it'll grow up and it'll start to sort of cascade and droop forward. It's actually really beautiful. And similar with the Rotala H-bar, it's a Rotala, so it's very, very similar in its shape and its texture, but it does grow a beautiful pinky red purple colour, especially with intense light. So what we're going to do is actually randomly mix the green and the red, and then it's just going to create this beautiful kind of greeny red hue all along the back, and Steve's going to have to trim it a lot again.
No, the trimming, George, would you encourage trimming at the, say, halfway point? Say you want to go that way.
Yeah.
Would you, when you get to the side of there, would you cut it back rather than leave you get to your full height initially?
It really is up to you. There's so many different ways to look after stem plants. There's no real right or wrong answer. What I personally do is wait for it on the. What I like to do is wait for the plant to reach the surface on this first go. Yeah, and then probably trim down to the point where you can't see the cut. So, for instance, in line with here, and then what happens is that where you trim that stem from, there's going to be 2 new shoots. So you'll just get this beautiful bushy effect. And then the stems will respond to probably 7 or 8 generations of trimming. And then you can either replant the cuttings, or you can, depending on your system, if you've got a high energy system, lots of CO2 and nutrients, what you can do is actually get the trimmings and not even plant them in the soil. You could just what we call topping technique. So you've got this big kind of mass of plant, and all you have to do is get that cutting and just pop it in that mass. And it uses that mass almost as a substrate.
Can you cut back to the same point always, almost, or do you have to, because it's sprouting off from two, you may damage it if you go, so you've got to sort of trim it at a higher level each time, would you say? I mean,
yeah, kind of. It's a lot of trial and error, really, depending on the species.
Yeah. I say, as it gets thicker growth, you don't notice it so much anyway when you're replanting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the good thing about stem plants, they're literally weeds. Most stem plants are aquatic weeds, and they grow so fast. Most of them are easy, so you can get away with doing almost anything. Sometimes I don't even use scissors. I just pinch with my fingers, with my nails, and then just pinch it if I want to. Just get that pinched bit, and then pop it back in somewhere else, and you can create almost instantly a nice background just by looking at it and saying, oh, there's a gap there. There's too much there. I'll just take a stem from there and pop it there. And if you've got a nice high quality system with enough, like I say, enough light CO2 nutrients, you can get away with doing that. No problem. It's a bit more tough with the low tech systems. The plants aren't quite so able to recover from that trimming. And the good thing about rotala, because it's so fast, it will help with algae issues. It's really important to look after, to help prevent algae in the early days, which is really likely. You know, most of you have had algae, I guess, and it's very common in a new setup because the system hasn't quite biologically balanced itself out yet. So what we can do to help mitigate that algae is to grow, you know, the fastest growing plants that we can. You know, things like rotalas, Limnophilus essiflora is a classic. A lot of the hygrophila species, hygrophila, polysperma, formis, there's a few others. So consider planting, even if you don't want those plants to be your final choice in your aquascape, do consider at least a third of those plants, I would suggest, as fast growing kind of weeds. Another tip is to use floating plants as well. This will help cut out light, which can help reduce algae, but just be careful not to cut out too much light because you'll, of course, block the light from the plant. So it's literally, in each bunch of these is probably between 8 and 10 stems, and you can see how many portions we've got. So it's literally hundreds and hundreds of these stems. And these are basically going to be not only aesthetically beautiful, but they're really going to help combat that algae. And counterintuitively as well, a lot of people, especially with a high-tech setup, with potentially powerful lighting, a lot of people tend to be a bit scared of running the lights very high power because they're worried about algae. But what you want to do is ensure there's enough light to grow the plant, because if there isn't, there'll definitely be enough light for the algae, but not enough for the plant. So remember what we talked about trying to look after the plants, and then they'll stop the algae from growing. So don't be afraid to put quite a lot of light in there. maybe just keep the photo period short. That's the amount of time the lights are on for. So, you know, one of the sort of techniques I like to do, and some of my colleagues, is actually run like 100% intensity if you have controllable lighting like we have today, but only for 4 hours for the first couple of weeks or so, and then you can up it to like 6 hours and then 8, and generally I'd never go more than 10. I normally just go for 8 hours or so. In my big tank at home, it's a bit different. I've got mostly low light tolerant plants towards the front of the aquarium, so actually you have a very powerful light at the back. No, sorry, no. You've seen my videos. No, it's a twin star 900 at the back, and then there's a 1200 at the front. But the 900 at the back is on for like 9 hours, and then the big one, the powerful one, is only on for 3 hours. And then 3 hours is bang in the middle of that photo period. So in my mind, that mimics almost like the sun peak time of day. And the good thing about having that light, the twin star 900 at the back on for longer, is that it brings out the red of the Amazon swords in the back of my tank. So if you go on if you want to look at my YouTube channel, you'll see one of my biggest tank on there. You'll see what I mean. It's got some really nice Amazon swords in the back. Shout out to Tropica. I'm actually going there again soon. Also, I don't know if anyone ever watched the Tropica live shows that we did. I don't know if we're going to do them again. They were such hard work. Good though, good fun. But if you go on the Tropica YouTube channel, you know, loads of great content on there. Learn about growing plants, actually did a black water setup last time I was there. Anyone done a black water aquarium before? Yeah? Yeah. Can't help it, they couldn't. Yeah. So black water is, you know, in nature we have a lot of black water kind of river systems. These are rivers that are basically stained with tannins from various biological processes. And a lot of fish prefer that. You know, the water's stained, so there's less likely for predation. Lower pH usually, softer water we associate with these black water systems. And it's actually I think it's quite a beautiful aesthetic. It's like an understated sort of subtle beauty. You know, it's muted. It's more natural. Yeah, I mean, this is natural looking, but it's almost a little bit contrived, you know.
A crystal clear aquarium is lovely to look at, but you'd never get it in nature.
In nature, yeah, very rarely.
If it's crystal clear, it's so fast flowing, there's nothing within it.
Yeah, that's true. I like the, have you seen the footage, or you ever been to the cenotes in Mexico, where it's really, really clear, but it's actually got a blue tinge to it because of the mineral content. Really, really beautiful. It's where like the swordtails and fish like that come from. Yeah. I think freshwater systems only inhabit, is it 3% of the planet? Something like that. It's a very small percentage compared to the ocean. Any reef keepers here? Yeah? See you later.
I've got both. I've got a planted aquarium as well.
I used to have a planted marine tank.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, the mackerel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea of mangroves. I asked David Saxby earlier about them. I'd love to have. I think that's going to be my next thing, is a mangrove tank.
Mangroves are cool.
Yeah.
And they're so important for ecology.
Yeah,
They really prevent the erosion, and there's so much life that goes on in the root system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to have that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a big uplift in sort of use of botanicals in aquariums. You know, leaf litter and seed pods, things like this, elder cones. And you can even collect these things, you know, in the UK, you know, copper beech leaves, oak leaves, as long as they're dried out, you know, give them a good soak in boiling water, you know, you can actually create these really beautiful layouts, you know, quite cheaply. You don't even need any plants, you know, black water, some nice hardscape, some beautiful fish, and you've got a really nice natural looking system. You know, it's very low maintenance. You could grow floating plants, of course, in these, and that would help with the nutrient export. Okay, we're nearly there. We're going to do the last million steps. Loads left. I'm going to start part of the stage and I'm going to do the exercise. Use that word. I used it naturally without even thinking about it.
Think about that.
Yeah, I think it sounds amazing. Okay, one of my favourite plants of all time, a beautiful instant focal point to any aquascape, Microsporum trident. So, trident fern, it's a type of Java fern, and now I'm just going to budget in some appropriate locations. Sorry? Yeah. Oh yeah, you can't, it shouldn't come in the rhizomes. Yeah. So the rhizome is this fleshy portion here where the leaves are grown from. It's important that that's exposed to circulating water. Otherwise, if you bury it in the substrate, it will go anaerobic and die off. So we need to make sure that's not buried.
You find that goes fine in low tech as well?
Actually, probably would do in soft water,
Yeah.
but it doesn't grow very well in my areas without CO2. It's classed as an easy category. I'd actually classify it as medium category myself.
Keep putting caveat on that.
Yeah. There's quite a few different Microsporum species out there. This is one of my favourites because of its relatively slender leaves. There's some much broader leaves. It's called trident fern. You can see kind of the leaf shape there. I just think it's lovely. It really adds an instant kind of natural focal point. So maintenance-wise, we would ideally be doing big water changes frequently in the first 4 weeks or so. My personal method, if I've got a brand new filter, brand new soil, brand new plants, everything's brand new, this is a recipe for algae, because everything's new and everything's like not biologically mature or balanced. So to help address that, the water changes really help. So I would suggest, and it's a lot of work for Steve unfortunately, daily water changes, 50% for the first week, for every day, and every other day for the second week, every third day for the third week, and then after a month you can do once a week. But tend to stick to the 50%. The 50% rule is interesting. It's based on the water change serves several purposes. When we're growing a high energy setup like this, we need to feed quite a lot of fertilisers to keep the plants really healthy. The plants want to go really fast. Okay, so we've got using high lighting. Lighting is the primary driving factor behind plant growth, followed by CO2 and then other nutrients. Okay, so if we have super bright light, lots of CO2, if you have super bright light, the plant is immediately wants to grow really fast. But if that's not met with appropriate CO2 or other nutrients, it's going to want to grow fast, but it can't. It's got no fuel to feed it. So it's like putting your foot down in a racing car, to try to go very, very fast. It's got the potential to go fast, but if there's no fuel, it's not going to go anywhere. And when it doesn't go anywhere, that's the opportunity for algae to use those resources, use the light. So we need to balance the light with CO2 and nutrients. Now, when we're doing that, if we do that appropriately, the plants are going to go really, really well. And actually what happens when plants go really well, they actually produce themselves quite a lot of organic waste. Okay, so it's not just the fish and the bacteria that produce waste. Any living thing, that's one of the characteristics of a living thing, is that it produces waste. So the faster the plant's growing, the more waste it's producing. If you don't dilute that waste with water changes, that waste is going to help trigger algae. Okay, so that's why we do these large water changes. I like to slightly deliberately overdose with fertilisers, generally speaking. And what this does, it makes sure the plants never go hungry. Okay, always better to overdo it than underdo it. If the plant goes hungry, again, it's a recipe for algae. The good thing about doing a little bit too much is that the plants actually will take in that. It's a kind of survival mechanism. Like they call it luxury uptake. And the plant will take in more nutrients than it needs if you give it more. And this is an evolutionary thing. So if in times of starvation and no nutrients, it's got a nutrient store. Okay? So we deliberately I like to dose the fertilisers every day, a little bit too much, like I say, and then every week or every day, depending on the time of the age of the aquascape. The 50% water change dilutes all of those fertilisers and the organic waste from the plants. Okay? So that's the reason we like to do big water changes. If you had a perfectly balanced system, low tech, for instance, with relatively low light, no CO2 injection, enough plant growth, you can actually get away, and some people do this, with no water changes. Okay? Quite controversial. A lot of low tech people do it and and have success with it, but I still intuitively I just think water changes are a good thing. They flush out the nasties and they put in the good stuff. But of course, there's very many ways to achieve success in this hobby, and my way isn't the only way, and it isn't necessarily the best way for you. It's just one way that I know works for me.
George,
Right?
before all of your packaged fertilisers like the all-in-ones and then estimated index, how would you fertilise aquariums?
For all of that,
I mean, in the aquascaping world.
Well, back in the old days, they used to use things like rabbit droppings in the substrate, before, and just, there's one creator on YouTube, but just if he has a dead fish, he just lets that decompose in the aquarium, and that feeds the. So as long as the plants are getting those elements, basically all the plant needs are those elements: so nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, iron, manganese, boron, copper, a few others I've forgotten. But as long as it's getting them in a kind of roundabout ratio, then it doesn't really matter where they come from. It's just we've now managed to create an all-in-one with all those nutrients in a relatively stable ratio.
So when you came into the hobby, was estimated index sort of fundamental?
Just coming in, actually. That's actually one of the things that got me noticed by practical fish keeping. I would be on the American forums because I was absolutely obsessed with it, learning everything I could. And I learned about this estimated index, and I actually bought. I don't think you can do it now, but I bought dry chemicals off the internet, like potassium nitrate, which is used in bombs, potassium phosphate, and like a trace element mix.
And frozen orange juice, and spent 7 months in prison.
There was a company that did that until quite recently, and they've stopped now.
Yeah, there was a few, it's very Plant Food UK. Actually, John Whelan.
Yeah, I don't think he's written it in no more.
No.
You won, mate. You were the last time, you had a lot of things.
Yeah, no, John. I did his wedding photography. Yeah. I did a few weddings. Good guy, actually. Shout out to John. Okay, that is the scape planted. We're not going to fill it up. We're not going to put any equipment on it right now. It's going to get moved, obviously, to the gallery area next door. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'll just run a quick summary of what we did and why we did it. So it was a Scaperline 100, 250 litres, AI prime lighting, Oase Scaperline the soil black type. I think we used 3 or 4 bags. 3 bags, 9 litre bags of the black Scaper soil. 2 pieces of, this is Corbo catfish wood from A&F, 2 pieces. 9 stones, a Syrian stone. And then a lovely mix of plants from tropical aquarium plants. In the foreground, we've got Monte Carlo, Marcellus Minuta, Crypt Parva, Schismatoglossus praetor, and then Sterigoni weapons, Leucophalandra red. We didn't talk about Leucophalandra, did we? Oh, we've got Anubias as well. And more Leucophalandra. You can go if you want, I'm going to carry on. Okay, Anubias petite, this is my favourite Anubias. I've got absolutely loads of this going on in my big tank at home. I love this plant. And again, we're just going to wedge it in various locations. And again, this doesn't like to be buried in the substrate, just like the Java fern. It's very slow grower. Quite praised algae because it's so slow growing. So it's ideal to plant it kind of where I am now, kind of in the shaded areas.
If you do see algae growing on, you just nip that.
It depends how bad the algae is. Sometimes I don't know a little bit, but if it's like, it depends on your own threshold. I'm quite comfortable with this algae. I think it's just natural. But yeah, if you cut it off, if you don't cut it off, you literally. Yeah, they will grow in as well. I have got certain little books, stroke catalogues to give away at the end from Tropica, if you'd like some. If you want me to sign them, that's okay. It's all a bit awkward for me to do these things, but some people like it apparently. I have got a book out, I don't know if anyone knows, called Aquascape as well. It's available on Amazon. And it basically tells you everything that I've told you today in a book. So you can just, in your own time, go through it all. I have got a YouTube channel with lots of tutorials on there as well. Some kind of vlog style stuff. I've been all over the world doing this, and there's various videos about that as well. I'm not sure the next event is. I don't work as much as I used to. I don't travel as much. Spend a lot of time at home looking after my own aquariums and making YouTube videos and playing with my miniature schnauzers. It's pretty much my life.
It's always a good looking stuff.
How many aquariums do you have at home?
6. The Oase Scaperline 400, which is sort of that kind of style, so the lid. And then I have the Oase Scaperline 300, which is the room divider, which is a 6-lid tank. I have 2 Oase Scaperline 60s, which is like this but smaller, 60 centimetres. So how many is that? 4. And then I have 2 tiny little nano cubes. Yeah, so 6. And if you want them to look pristine, it's almost a full-time job to keep up with that, which is cool because I love maintaining tanks. I love this. I love talking about it, of course. I love filming, photographing them, and I love maintaining them. I just love everything about it. I'm very lucky to do this. Yeah. Very grateful. Is there any more questions? Anything?
Sorry, go on.
Have you done much like paludarium type stuff?
No, I haven't actually. I have done one. It was a Dua. What Dua was called? It's called Dua Terra, is it? Yeah, just like a 30 centimetre wide and then sort of 60 high, all in built, fancy thing. That was lovely, but I just prefer underwater stuff. I don't know why. I think it's to do with like the movement, and I think there's a human comfort when you're close to water. You know, I think there's something evolutionary powerful about it, where our ancestors lived in a time of scarcity. You know, where water could be quite hard to come by. So, you know, we're not that. Our brain hasn't really evolved since then. So, if we're near water, I think we particularly feel comfortable. I think that's why a lot of people actually by the coast or go fishing or just chill out near a waterfall. You know, I just think there's something really special and powerful about water. And I think there's something magical about the water movement, the lighting, the colours, the fish, this whole kind of interaction. It's just something very unique, powerful, that connects with us in a very special way. Okay, I'm going to do some giveaways now. We'll spray that and then we'll say, oh no, but please, I think we've got room. It's a present for you for helping, thank you so much. There's lots of Oase bags here, so just give those out to everyone. We'll take one, pass it down, pass it down. Just say cheerio to the YouTube audience. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up. Cheerio.